Welcome to Sword and Shield, the official podcast of the 960th Cyberspace Wing. Join us for insight, knowledge, mentorship, and some fun as we discuss relevant topics in and around our wing. Please understand that the views expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the views of the U.S. Air Force nor the Air Force Reserve, and no endorsement of any particular person or business is ever intended.
Good day, Gladiators. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Sword and Shield podcast. It's Francis Martinez, Director of Psychological Health for the 960th Cyberspace Wing. I'm here with two guests I have in front of me.
Good afternoon. I'm John Covington, Chief of Security for the 960th Cyberspace Wing.
And on the phone, I have...
Good afternoon. This is Master Sgt. Mundy. I'm part of the 316 Training Squadron here at Goodfellow Air Force Base.
So thank you guys for joining us today. One of the reasons why we have you guys, because we really wanted to talk about some myths, right, as it relates to security clearances and mental health. I know, John, you work with people that have are going through the security clearance process, and Sergeant Mundy has some personal experiences. So we're going to be talking about that stuff today.
All right.
Alrighty. And so it's really important, right, that people really understand where the myth even came from. So I know earlier we're talking about back in the day, right?
Yes.
Stuff happened. So let's talk about that for a little bit.
So a long time ago, there was the stigma of, gaining and maintaining a clearance, whether it was just secret or TS, SCI. And there was this awful stigma surrounding, if you go and seek mental health, they're going to immediately pull your clearance. Don't do it. It's frowned upon, keep it to yourself and don't do that. And we want to make sure that everybody's clear and aware that just because, it doesn't fly anymore that, we used to do things, this is how we always did it, and that's how we're going to proceed now. We definitely want to shift gears and get the awareness out there that is no longer the case. It's not a thing. Please, please, please. If you need to seek mental health, please go do it.
Yeah. So the DoD is more progressive now as it relates to mental health, right? And seeking mental health.
Yes.
Versus sorry, we're going to kick you out, or, you're going to lose your clearance, lose your job. And I think that still lingers today because generally when people meet with me, that's the first question they ask me. Are you going to take my clearance away? Does this have any bearing on my clearance? What's the deal? And that's one of the things that, I struggle with working with people and building that trust, because number one, I'm not going to take your clearance. I don't have that authority.
Right.
Number two, I don't take notes, right? That's the luxury of my position. I don't have to take notes. I don't have to report anything to mental health or your military records, your medical records. So no one knows what we talk about. And so that's another thing that people that come and talk to me have a little bit of difficulty in building that rapport and that trust. So, but I do have some numbers, and I want to talk about this for a little bit, just to really put things into perspective. So the Defense of Counterintelligence and Security Agency reported these numbers through the DoD CAF metrics. From 2012 to 2018, there was a total of 2,361,717 total adjudicative actions.
Wow.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so cases with psychological issues were 46,985. So that's only 2.03%.
Not a lot. Not a lot.
Here is where it gets even slimmer. So denials of revocations for only psychological related issues is 12.
Minute numbers. Comparatively speaking, it's very, very small.
Right. And so that's, bottom line, is extremely rare for someone to lose a clearance for only a psych-related issue.
Right.
And so let's talk a little bit about that. What does that look like?
So for the adjudicative guidelines when it comes to a clearance, there's So in the security realm, there's 13 of these adjudicated guidelines. And when you're going through the clearance process, you'll have the investigator come and talk to you, and they're going to interview all the references that you gave them. And they're going to ask them and you all these questions about foreign influence. Have you ever misused information technology or computers? Ask you about your foreign influence, foreign preferences, criminal conduct, drug involvement. One of the questions is psychological conditions. So out of those 13 guidelines, we're talking about a very, very small percentage that any type of adverse action is ever even taken. So with that, there are some ways to mitigate this if you ever do go to seek mental health. And what that is, if you're self-identifying, you're self-reporting, you're seeking it, that actually shows that you have sound judgment, you have trustworthiness, because you're able to self-identify and be self-aware enough that, hey, I need to go talk to somebody. And that's exactly what we want people to do. Mm-hmm. We want them to go reach out and be proactive about seeking the mental health. When you don't seek mental health, things bubble up.
Yes.
It gets a little harder.
Yes.
And it can flow over into other areas. You might be stressed at work. You might be stressed at home. So these might be contributing factors. And then as everything compounds, you'll start to see it bleed into other areas. Mm-hmm. And there are some times when if you don't seek it out on your own, if you're not able to self-identify, other people might start to notice it. Say in the workplace, your first sergeant might get involved. You might get command directed to go seek mental health. And that's when we start to get into the area of, you should have already seen us. Now we're notifying you that we have acknowledged it, we see it, and we would like for you to seek mental health.
Yeah, and there's definitely a risk involved with not seeking mental health.
Absolutely.
So decrease of force readiness, right? You're unable to perform your work-related duties, and it affects everything. Your family life, your home life, your civilian life, if you're a reservist, right?
Yes.
And so it also increased suicide risk. The one thing to help decrease suicide risk is seeking mental health treatment. And one of our podcasts that we had before back in September with Colonel Swanson, he talks about surviving suicide. He had 2 severe suicide attempts, and he ended up losing his clearance because he wasn't seeking mental health treatment. He talks about how he gets his clearance back after the suicide attempts, but I know it's a lot harder to get it back after you've lost it versus, getting the proper care that you need in the moment.
Right. Doing it up front, and heading that off with that self-identifying and self-awareness, definitely the best route to go. Worst case scenario, let's say you get command directed, that's still not going to be the end all be all. You can still regain that. If for whatever reason during that command directed assessment, say it was taken for whatever reason, you can still regain that. One of those factors is in the adjudicated guidelines, it says that if you have counsel by a duly qualified and noted and trusted government mental health assessor, and the situation has been identified, it is now mitigated. There's no probability or likelihood of exacerbation or recurrence of it. Clean bill of health, you're good to go. So not a big deal.
Yeah. And so also not seeking mental health treatment, right, increases his security concerns as it relates to your clearance, because you might not be in a mental state that's, capable of doing your job appropriately.
Yes, right. Sometimes.
Yeah. And so today we have Sergeant Mundy's on the line, and he has a story about, mental health treatment that he sought out. And he's an intelligence person, right? And so I thought that would be our wheelhouse, being a cyberspace wing.
Absolutely.
And so Sergeant Mundy, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. You are right. I am an intelligence person. not an intelligent person, but definitely intelligent. I'm a 1 in 4 alpha by trade. That's a cyber intelligence analyst. I'm here at Goodfellow to be an instructor for the 1 in 4 schoolhouse here. Just recently PCS here, but previously to this, I was stationed at JBSA. I was underneath the 67 Cyber Wing with the 375th COS, and so I'm very familiar with your wing and pretty much all the job roles that are in there.
Right next door to us.
Yes, ma'am, right across the street. But yeah, thank you for letting me tell my story. I would like to get it out there because I think it's very important for people to hear that seeking mental health is not end all be all, and it really got to fight the stigma because it really did save my life, and it saved me and my family's relationship. But just to backtrack here a little bit, go back in the past. In 2015, I actually cross-trained into Intel. I'm a prior maintenance troop. I got forced cross-trained, so that kind of put a lot of stress on me. I just showed up to work one day and I was like, "Hey, you have an email?" I had an email that just said, "Hey, you're going to be an Intel analyst." I was like, "Excuse me?" I had no idea this was on the table. And so it was like an immediate PCS, so I put stress on me and my family. We had to move. And then it's like, "Hey, you have to get a TSSCI and do a polygraph." I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I'm thinking about all this stuff that goes back into my history. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And so I'm going through, and I go through, I'm getting adjudicated. I'm going to the tech school. And my wife becomes pregnant. She becomes high risk. So I have all this new stuff going on with work. I'm trying to learn work. My wife's going through some things that are scaring me in a sense, and putting that kind of like mental pressure on me. And one day in class, I'm just sitting in class, and all of a sudden my heart starts to flutter really weirdly. And I'm like, oh no, what is that? And then all of a sudden it just starts to pound really hard. And I think I'm starting to have a heart attack. So I just tell everybody, please call 911. What's going on?
Wow.
Do that. End up going to the hospital. Send me back. The doctor comes from the back and he's like, "Hey man, it's not a heart attack. You have a panic attack." Panic attack? What is that? So he breaks it down for me. He's like, "You got a lot of built up subconscious things." He's like, "What's going on in your life?" And so just sitting there talking for like 5 to 10 minutes. It's like, "Yeah, man, you got a lot of stuff that's going on." And so after that, I felt okay. I didn't really feel, I thought maybe it was just like a one-time thing. And so we ended up graduating PCS from Goodfellow to San Antonio, where it became part of the 75th at the time, but now it's 375 cost. And I'm starting to feel those things again. It's a new place, new stressors, just trying to, fit in. I'm a staff sergeant at this time, but I'm training like I'm an airman. Like I feel like I'm underperforming. I just stuff at home was kind of rocky because I didn't feel like I was doing good at work, so I kind of bring that home, and then I bring home back to work, and so all this stuff was just starting to build back up in my head again. And I went and talked to one of my buddies, and I was like, "Hey, I think I need to go talk to somebody because I'm starting to have panic attacks again, like I did whenever I was at Goodfellow." He was actually in my class at Goodfellow, and so he was like, "Don't you ever talk to mental health because they're gonna pull that clearance that you just got." And so I was like, "Oh man." Okay.
How scary is that, right?
Yeah, like I was like, what am I supposed to do at that point? And so, but it got to the point to where I was having panic attacks. Like I could almost think myself into a panic attack just because I was so anxious all the time. I was so worried, so scared. Just a lot of personal things, a lot of work things that are going on. I don't want to mess this up. This is the only thing I got. This is my career. This is how I support my family. I don't want to lose my clearance because then I'll lose the Air Force. But then one day it got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And I thought about maybe I was going to do something stupid. So instead of doing that, I said, I don't care. I'm just going to go talk to somebody. I'm going to mental health. I'm going to go try to get this figured out. Because I'd rather, if it is the case, I would rather lose my clearance than lose my life or lose my family.
Absolutely. We sometimes have to put things into perspective, right?
And so that's what I did. I went straight to mental health. I was diagnosed with general anxiety with panic disorder, which all that means is you're an anxious dude that has panic attacks. And so, I did that, and I was prescribed medications. With the medications, it's super simple for me. I mean, it's different. I think across, but it might be DOD. I'm not sure. But for me, it's just like a 90-day hold for like no TUIs. I just want to make sure they get you on the right dosages, make sure they get your brain function right, don't have any bad side effects. And so that was that was fine. You know, I got on that. I got on my medication. I started to feel better. I started to perform better at work, my relationships. I saw the mental health like therapy also as well. Learned the mindfulness techniques. I learned that not only talking to mental health, but like I can talk to individuals like Francis. I can talk to chaplains. Just going out trying to talk to somebody to get some help. And so I never lost my clearance. I never got a suspended clearance. Nothing ever came of it. Whenever I had to, and so after that, actually, I PCS for training and PCS back. And so I had to redo my security clearance paperwork to ask you in the paperwork, hey, have you saw any type of mental health? Sure enough, I put myself on down there. And so whenever you go to your personal interviews, they actually, so I actually worked at the Texas Cryptologic side. Whenever I was going through to get that clearance for that part, they saw that on my paperwork. They actually said, hey, this is great. We ask that people go and seek this type of help. It's good. It's glad that you self-identify and do this. Just pretty much everything that Mr. Covington said was absolutely correct. And I was able to induct the next day. And it was great. Like, I feel like we really got to beat this stigma because, as long as you see the triggers, you see the warning signs, go and seek the help. 99.9% of the time, you're going to be absolutely fine.
Right.
That's like my little personal story. But if we have time, I can talk about me being I was the active duty first sergeant for 4 months straight for my squadron. And I also saw the other side of that where you can see individuals not get help, not get the things they need, and to where they do get command directed. But also, like Mr. Covington said, even though some of those guys did that, I've seen stories where people were put into inpatient for 6-7 weeks. They got their clearances pulled, but I've also seen them because I was there long enough for 6 years. I saw them get them back. It's just making sure you take the proper steps to take care of yourself. So that's really all the Air Force wants for you, or the military, is take care of yourself so that you can help take care of the mission.
Awesome. No, thank you for sharing that. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on this, that you sought mental health, you've put it down on your paperwork, you were actually prescribed medication, and you still never lost your clearance.
And that's another myth, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to be put on medication. I can't do anything, which is false, right?
Exactly.
You have to obviously be forthcoming with what medications you're on if you're on certain medications, but also tell the physicians, hey, I have this. This is what I do as far as my job duties. And they know which medications are okay and which medications are not okay.
They might be able to give you an alternative that wouldn't have an impact.
Yeah.
So definitely, there's always options out there, but we just want to make sure that the one option that people are not avoiding is seeking that mental health.
Absolutely. That's what we always want people to do. And if you're worried, about seeking mental health, going to the mental health clinic, come and speak to me, give me a call, text me. That way we can really point you in the right direction. Sometimes you won't even have to go to mental health. It's something that we can deal with in office, just a couple coping skills, some strategies, and, send you on your merry way. Sometimes it's very unlikely, but sometimes, we have to go the route with, getting further treatment, right? And, getting, on medications and things like that. So we always try to do the least invasive type of treatment before going to more progressive treatment.
Right. Absolutely.
So Sergeant Mundy, is there any last words that you have that you'd like for our Gladiator listeners and everyone else out there to know?
Yeah, for sure. Seek the help. I still seek help. I still go talk to mental health. I go to BHOP. I do everything I can to try to keep my mind, open and clear, and just to know that if you're going through something, you're not alone. I can guarantee you there's somebody out there that's either going through this at the same time or has gone through it. It can help you through and guide you. We just got to beat this stigma because I'm tired of the suicide rates going up, let alone in the Air Force is super high, but military wide.
Right.
And we gotta beat this and just know that somebody loves you. I love you. So let's just, seek the help if you need it.
Thank you. And yeah, so in 2020, we were facing 3 suicides a week in the Air Force alone. And so any way that we can definitely spread the word, break the stigma, and get the help that you need, because you matter, right? Everyone matters. And everyone is someone's brother, sister, dad, uncle, and so on and so forth. And so it's important that we really get people the help that they really need. John, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We appreciate your expertise. And if anyone has any questions as it relates to mental health and your security clearance, we'll have them reach out to you.
Absolutely. Here to help.
And Sergeant Mundy, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story, right? Because it's scary sharing stories. But I think it really also helps people to really understand that, they're not alone, and you've been there, you've done that, and you're here to spread the word.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And so, Gladiators, if you or someone you know are contemplating suicide, please contact the suicide hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Thank you so much for listening into this episode. Gladiators out.